These two baskets came from the same August garden on the same morning. One stayed crisp, bright, and ready for the kitchen. The other began losing its freshness before breakfast. The difference did not begin with the seed, the fertilizer, or the amount of water. It began with the moment each crop was picked, and what happened during the next few minutes mattered even more. That is the part of harvesting many gardeners overlook. We spend weeks watering through hot weather, checking leaves for pests, tying vines, feeding the soil, and waiting for the exact color or size that tells us a crop is ready. Then, on harvest day, we walk into the garden after the sun has already heated the leaves, drop everything into one deep basket, leave that basket beside the bed while we keep picking, and wonder why the vegetables feel tired by the time they reach the kitchen. August makes those final minutes especially important. In many parts of the United States, the air can warm quickly after sunrise. A lettuce leaf that felt cool and firm early in the morning can feel soft after direct sun reaches it. A cucumber can be perfectly mature, but still lose some of its fresh, firm character if it sits in a hot basket. Strawberries can be beautiful on the plant and bruised before breakfast if tomatoes and peppers are piled on top of them. Basil can be harvested at a good time and still be damaged if it is treated exactly like spinach. Today, we are going to walk through 15 food crops in the order you should consider harvesting them before the August heat takes over. We will begin with the leaves that lose crispness fastest, move into herbs that can lose aroma and quality, then harvest cucumbers, zucchini, beans, and okra at the right stage of maturity. After that, we will handle strawberries, tomatoes, and peppers. And we will finish with cantaloupe, the strong-looking fruit that can still disappoint you if it is picked before the plant says it is ready. But this is not a rigid rule that says every gardener must stand outside in the dark. Before sunrise is a useful image because it reminds us to work while the garden is still cool, yet the real goal is more practical. Harvest before direct summer sun heats the crop. Pay attention to surface moisture. Move the produce into shade immediately. Separate delicate food from heavy food. Cool each crop in a way that suits that crop, not by using one method for everything. Stay with me through the final crop, because cantaloupe teaches the most important lesson in this entire morning routine. The clock can tell you whether the harvest conditions are favorable. Only the plant can tell you whether the crop is ready. Before we touch the first leaf, let us set up the morning correctly. A successful harvest begins the evening before. Clean your scissors, knife, or hand pruners. Set out more than one container. A shallow basket is better for tender leaves and berries. A separate basket can hold cucumbers, zucchini, tomatoes, and peppers. If you grow cantaloupe, give the fruit its own place so it does not crush anything beneath it. Choose a shaded spot near the garden where every filled container can wait for the short trip indoors. Then look at the direction of the morning's sun. One side of your garden may remain cool much longer than another. A raised bed near a fence may stay shaded while containers on a patio begin warming almost immediately. A plant at the eastern edge may need attention before a plant protected by the house. Your harvest route should follow the heat, not simply the order in which the plants are arranged. You do not need a thermometer for every leaf. Use your hand. Touch the outside of a lettuce head, the surface of a cucumber, or the shoulder of a tomato. A crop that has not received direct sun often feels cool and firm. Once the surface feels warm, the ideal window may be closing, especially for leafy greens and berries. That does not mean the food is ruined. It means you should shorten the time between cutting it and moving it into a cooler, shaded place. Now check for water. A cool plant and a wet plant are not the same thing. Morning dew is normal, and in humid areas, it can remain on leaves after sunrise. If the foliage is dripping, do not compress it into a closed bag or tightly packed container. Harvest only what needs immediate attention. Keep the leaves loose and ventilated, or wait briefly for the surface to dry while the plant remains shaded. After rain, the same principle matters even more. The goal is not to avoid every drop of moisture. The goal is to avoid trapping wet, delicate produce with no airflow. Also remember that maturity still comes first. Early morning cannot improve a zucchini that was forgotten until it became oversized. Cool air cannot turn old green beans tender again. Shade cannot make an immature cantaloupe taste fully ripe. We are combining the right stage of growth with the best available harvest conditions. If your schedule does not allow you to pick before sunrise, do not abandon the entire method. Harvest during the coolest part of your available time. Begin with the part of the garden that is about to receive sun. Carry a second basket so tender crops are never buried. Work in smaller rounds and bring each full basket into shade instead of leaving everything outside until the end. Even a busy gardener can protect quality by shortening the hot exposed period after a crop leaves the plant. The first 4 crops should usually lead your route because they can lose the texture you grew them for faster than almost anything else in the garden. Begin where the leaves are thinnest, most tender, and most exposed to the rising heat. Start with lettuce. Whether you grow loose-leaf lettuce, romaine, butterhead, or a compact variety in a container, the useful part of the plant is mostly water held in tender tissue. That is why lettuce can look excellent on the plant and then lose its crisp posture surprisingly quickly after harvest. Approach the plant gently and look before you cut. If you are harvesting individual leaves, choose healthy outer leaves that have reached the size you want while leaving the center to continue growing. If you are taking a whole head, check the base for damaged leaves, soil, slugs, or decay before you place it in the basket. Use a clean blade for a neat cut. Tearing and twisting can bruise the base and disturb the leaves you intend to keep. The basket matters immediately. Do not press a large amount of lettuce into a small container just because it looks light. Those leaves compress easily, and pressure creates bruised places that may darken or soften later. Lay the leaves loosely. If they are damp with dew, give them airflow. Do not seal them in a plastic bag while you are still walking around the garden. A shaded, open container is a much better temporary home. If the lettuce has already received direct sunlight, you can still harvest it, especially when it needs to come out that day. Just change your handling. Cut a smaller amount, move it inside promptly, and avoid leaving the basket beside the bed. The common mistake is not simply harvesting after sunrise. The bigger mistake is allowing warm leaves to stay warm while the rest of the garden is harvested. Once indoors, inspect the leaves and remove anything badly damaged. Clean the lettuce according to the way you normally prepare and store it, but do not leave water trapped around the leaves. Cooling and moisture management work together. The goal is crisp lettuce, not lettuce sitting in a pool of water. Now move to spinach. Spinach leaves can be smaller than lettuce leaves, which makes it tempting to grab a large handful and push it into a bag. Resist that temptation. Small leaves pack tightly, and tightly packed wet spinach has very little airflow. Harvest the outer leaves that are large enough to use, or cut the plant according to the growing method you chose. Look carefully for yellowing leaves, insect damage, and soil splashed onto the underside. Keep damaged material separate from the clean harvest, rather than hiding it in the middle of the container. That one habit makes sorting easier when you return to the kitchen. Spinach generally deserves an early position in the root because tender leaves heat quickly. If the bed is about to receive morning sun, collect spinach before moving to sturdier crops. Use a shallow container and spread the leaves rather than forming a dense mound. If the spinach is very wet, either allow the surface to dry while the bed remains shaded, or harvest loosely and handle it without sealing. A useful test is to lift one leaf by the stem. A cool, hydrated leaf holds itself differently from a leaf that has been sitting in heat. Do not expect every leaf to stand perfectly, because varieties differ, but pay attention to the change within your own garden. That comparison is more useful than chasing one universal clock time. Spinach rewards speed, but kale rewards a different skill. Knowing which leaves are truly ready. Kale is tougher than lettuce and spinach, so gardeners often leave it until the end of the harvest. It can tolerate more handling, but that does not mean it should bake in a sunny basket. Choose mature outer leaves while protecting the central growing point. A leaf that is large enough for your kitchen and still in good condition is a better choice than a very old leaf with extensive insect damage or yellowing. Hold the leaf near the base and cut cleanly. Avoid stripping the plant so heavily that it cannot continue producing. Before the kale goes indoors, turn each leaf over. Caterpillars, aphids, and egg clusters often hide where a quick glance from above will not find them. It is much easier to notice those problems in the garden than after the leaves are piled in the sink. Remove badly infested leaves from the harvest and deal with the plant problems separately. Stacking can help with kale if it is done gently. Place the stems in roughly the same direction, so the thick ribs do not puncture neighboring leaves. Keep the pile low. Kale may feel strong, but pressure from melons, tomatoes, or zucchini can still bruise it. Strength is not permission to misuse the basket. If you are harvesting baby kale, treat it more like spinach. Small, tender leaves lose moisture faster and compact more easily. If you are harvesting full-size leaves, they can wait slightly longer, but shade is still essential. The sun can warm dark green leaves quickly. Kale may forgive a slower harvest, but Swiss chard carries wide leaves and brittle stems that need a gentler basket. Swiss chard often looks dramatic in August, with broad blades and colorful stalks, yet those stalks can snap when they are bent or trapped under other produce. Harvest from the outside of the plant. Select mature leaves and cut the stalk cleanly near the base without damaging the central crown. Do not yank the leaf sideways. A rough pull can split tissue or disturb younger growth. As you collect the stalks, lay them in the same direction so the heavy ends are not pressing into the leaf blades. Swiss chard should not share the bottom of a basket with cucumbers, zucchini, peppers, or cantaloupe. Even if you plan to cook the leaves, unnecessary crushing reduces their quality. Give them space, keep them shaded, and move them inside before the day warms. Check both the leaves and the stems. A leaf can appear healthy while the stalk has a damaged spot near the base. Separate anything that is badly split, slimy, or infested. Clean harvesting is not about making a perfect-looking basket for a photograph. It is about preventing one damaged piece from being mixed through the food you want to keep. These 4 leafy crops follow the same broad principle, but they are not identical. Lettuce needs extremely gentle handling. Spinach needs space and airflow because small leaves compact. Kale needs proper leaf selection and a check beneath the foliage. Swiss chard needs protection for its broad leaves and brittle stalks. Remember the 4-part rule for this section. Harvest before the leaves become hot. Choose only the parts that are ready and healthy. Do not compress them. Do not trap excessive surface moisture. Now look at the basket. If it is already full, take it into shade before moving on. Do not tell yourself you will be back in only a minute. A harvest routine succeeds through many small decisions, and placing a full basket in shade is one of the easiest decisions you can make. Leafy greens lose water and crispness first. The next 3 crops can lose something just as valuable, the aroma that makes them worth growing. Cilantro is often the first herb to complain about August heat. In a warm garden, it can move quickly from leafy growth toward flowering, and once direct sun heats the foliage, the leaves can lose their fresh character faster than a sturdier herb. Harvest cilantro while the plant is still cool and the leaves are dry enough to handle. Select healthy outer stems or cut a larger portion according to the stage of the plant and how you plan to use it. Use clean scissors instead of pulling a tight handful. Pulling can uproot a young plant, bruise the stems, or disturb nearby roots. Look at the center of the plant. If a tall flowering stem is beginning to rise, the plant is changing stages. The leaves may still be usable, but the flavor and texture may differ from younger growth. Morning harvest cannot reverse that change, so let the plant tell you what it has become. Do not squeeze cilantro into a dense bundle. The thin stems and leaves bruise easily, especially when warm. Lay it loosely in a shallow basket, keep it shaded, and separate muddy or yellowing stems before they are mixed with the clean harvest. If the foliage is wet, avoid trapping it in a sealed container. Parsley is usually more forgiving. Its leaves and stems feel firmer, and it may remain presentable longer in the garden. That strength can create a bad habit. Gardeners harvest parsley, drop it into the basket, and then leave it under everything else while they continue picking. Treat parsley as food, not as packing material. Choose mature outer stems and cut them near the base. Taking only the leaf tips leaves awkward bare stems on the plant and does not encourage the same clean pattern of new growth. Leave enough healthy inner growth for the plant to continue producing. Inspect the curled or flat leaves carefully. Soil, tiny insects, and damaged pieces can hide inside dense foliage. A quick check in the garden saves time indoors. Keep the stems aligned so the parsley remains loose rather than tangled into a compressed ball. Parsley does not need to be the very first crop you touch, but it should not be allowed to heat in direct sun. Once cut, it no longer has the root system supporting it. Move it to shade with the cilantro and keep the herbs away from heavy fruit. Then we come to basil, the herb that breaks the simple rule that colder must always be better. Basil loves warm growing conditions, yet the best harvest is still often made before the plant is heated by strong August sun. The important distinction comes after cutting. First, wait until the leaf surface is reasonably dry. Wet basil bruises easily, and damaged wet leaves can darken quickly. Choose healthy stems and cut just above a suitable pair of leaves. That cut can encourage branching and give the plant a better shape for future harvests. Avoid tearing individual leaves from every growing point, because random stripping can leave the plant weak and uneven. Handle each stem by the lower portion when possible. Do not squeeze the leaf blades. Basil leaves show fingerprints, pressure marks, and bruising more readily than many other herbs. A beautiful bunch can become spotted simply because it was gripped too tightly. Place basil in its own airy container or on top of other very light herbs. Never bury it under cucumbers or peppers. Keep it shaded, but do not assume it should be rushed into the coldest part of the refrigerator with spinach and lettuce. Basil can suffer chilling injury, particularly when exposed to temperatures that are too low for too long. Home conditions and storage plans vary, so the safest general lesson is to treat basil separately and use it promptly while its aroma and leaves are at their best. If you plan to use basil soon, keep the stems clean, dry, and protected from crushing. Some gardeners handle cut stems much like a small bouquet, while others wrap or store them according to their kitchen routine. The exact method can vary, but 3 mistakes are consistent: leaving basil in direct sun, sealing bruised wet leaves, and exposing it to inappropriate cold. Notice how the rules changed across these 3 herbs. Cilantro asks for speed because heat pushes it hard. Parsley asks for correct stem selection and protection from being ignored at the bottom of the basket. Basil asks for dry leaves, a clean branching cut, gentle handling, and thoughtful temperature management. This is why one basket and one storage method cannot serve every crop equally well. The herbs may grow only a few feet from the spinach, but what protects spinach after harvest may not be ideal for basil. Before you leave this part of the garden, smell the cut stems. That aroma is part of the harvest. Once an herb is badly bruised or overheated, adding water later cannot fully restore what was lost. Basil proves that colder is not always better. The next 4 crops prove that larger is not always better either. Now we move from leaves to fruits and pods, where the clock matters, but maturity matters just as much. Cucumbers can look as though they are built for heat. Their vines spread across warm soil, their leaves face the summer sun, and the fruit feels cool and watery when sliced. But once a cucumber is removed from the vine, direct heat and rough handling begin working against the firm texture you want. Search the plant carefully. Cucumbers hide under leaves, behind trellises, and close to the ground. Check every side before you cut, because one overlooked fruit can become oversized while you are admiring the easy ones at eye level. Harvest according to the normal, mature size and color of your variety. A small pickling cucumber, a long slicing cucumber, and a round specialty type should not be judged by one universal measurement. Look for firm fruit with the appearance expected from the variety. If the fruit has moved far beyond its ideal stage, an early hour will not return it to tenderness. The lesson is simple. Cool conditions protect good maturity. They do not repair over-maturity. Use scissors or pruners to cut the stem rather than twisting the vine. Cucumber vines can be surprisingly easy to damage, and a hard pull may disturb a growing tip or nearby fruit. Leave a short piece of stem when practical, and lower the cucumber into the basket. Do not throw it. Cucumber skin can be scratched by rough stems, tools, or other produce. Keep the basket clean and avoid piling sharp okra stems or pruning scissors against the fruit. Move each filled basket out of the sun. A cucumber harvested cool but left beside a hot wall has not received the full benefit of your early start. Zucchini creates a different problem. It grows so quickly that gardeners often discover one enormous fruit beneath a leaf after believing the plant had nothing ready. August warmth can make that surprise happen repeatedly. Lift the foliage carefully and look from several angles. Do not snap leaves merely to improve visibility. Select zucchini at the size and stage you prefer for cooking, taking the variety into account. Many gardeners enjoy younger fruit because the skin is tender and the seeds are less developed. But the correct harvest size depends on the type and intended use. What matters is consistency. Check the plant often enough that the fruit does not pass unnoticed far beyond your preferred stage. Cut the stem cleanly with a knife or pruners. Zucchini stems and leaves can be rough, so wear gloves if your skin is sensitive. Support the fruit as you cut, so it does not drop and scrape against the soil. Its skin may look durable, but scratches become visible quickly and can shorten its attractive kitchen life. Do not place zucchini on top of lettuce, spinach, chard, cilantro, or strawberries. Give the heavier fruit a separate basket. If the zucchini is damp, allow the surface to dry with airflow rather than sealing it immediately. Keep it cool and shaded, but do not soak it in water simply because the morning is hot. The biggest zucchini is not automatically the best zucchini. A large fruit can still be useful for baking, stuffing, or preserving seeds, but it is a different harvest from the tender young fruit many people expect for quick cooking. Decide what you want before you cut. Green beans add another layer to the maturity question. The plant may be covered with flowers, tiny pods, and full-size pods at the same time. Your job is to select the pods that match the eating stage of the variety, while leaving younger ones to continue developing. Begin on the shaded side of the row or trellis. Use both hands if necessary. One hand supports the plant, and the other removes the bean. Pulling a pod sharply can tear a branch, remove flowers, or disturb small beans that would have become the next harvest. If the stems are tough, use scissors. Look at the pod rather than relying only on length. A bean harvested for eating young is generally firm and developed enough to use, but not so old that the seeds inside dominate the pod. Different varieties show maturity differently. Some are round, some flat, some purple, and some yellow. Learn the normal appearance of the cultivar in your garden. If you bend or snap one bean as a test, pay attention to what it tells you, but do not turn one dramatic snap into an absolute standard for every variety. Texture, fiber, and moisture differ. The most useful comparison is between young and old pods from your own plants. Green beans are light, yet they can still be damaged when crushed beneath heavier produce. Keep them loose, shade them quickly. If the foliage is wet, be careful about spreading disease from plant to plant while harvesting. It may be better to wait for leaves to dry if the pods can remain shaded and the harvest is not urgent. Frequent picking can also help the plant continue producing, because mature pods left on the plant signal a different stage of reproduction. But do not make exaggerated promises about yield. Plant health, variety, weather, and pollination all matter. The practical point is that regular observation prevents good eating pods from becoming old before you notice them. Okra may be the fastest moving maturity challenge in this group. A pod that looks ideal one day can become noticeably tougher if it is left too long during strong growth. That does not mean every variety follows the same schedule or reaches the same ideal length. It means you should inspect the plant regularly and learn the feel and appearance of the pods you enjoy. Wear gloves and long sleeves if the fine hairs on the plant irritate your skin. Use clean pruners or scissors and cut the short stem above the cap. Do not yank the pod downward. A rough pull can split the branch or damage the growing point. Select pods that are still tender for your intended use. A simple test on a sample pod may help you learn the variety, but avoid bending every pod on the plant. Older pods can be left for seed, if that is your goal, while tender ones go to the kitchen. Again, the The harvest decision comes from both time of day and stage of growth. Keep okra dry and handle it carefully. The ridges can bruise, and cut stems can scratch neighboring produce. Use a separate light layer rather than mixing it under melons or large tomatoes. Move it out of direct sun as soon as you finish the plant. Now pause and compare these 4 crops. Cucumbers ask you to search beneath leaves and cut the vine gently. Zucchini asks you to check frequently and choose the size that fits your kitchen. Green beans ask you to support the plant and judge the pod, not merely its length. Okra asks you to harvest tenderness before toughness develops. All 4 benefit from cool morning conditions, but none can be judged by the clock alone. You can wake before dawn and still collect a cucumber that is too mature, a zucchini that was overlooked, a bean that has become fibrous, or an okra pod that is too tough for the meal you planned. There is another mistake that can erase the advantage of perfect timing. Imagine that you harvested every cucumber and bean while they were cool. Then you placed the basket at the sunny end of the row and continued working for half an hour. The produce is no longer benefiting from the cool plant. It is becoming a small container of trapped summer heat. The same thing happens when a gardener carries one enormous bucket. Lettuce goes in first. Zucchini lands on top. Cucumbers press against the side. Beans disappear underneath. Okra stems scratch the fruit. By the time the bucket enters the kitchen, the crops have been damaged by their neighbors. That is why your harvesting system needs pauses. Fill a shallow basket, move it to shade, and begin another. Separate light leaves from heavy fruit. Keep tools out of the produce. Do not leave a full container on concrete, metal, or the floor of a hot vehicle. A clean cloth over the top can provide temporary protection from sun, but it should not trap heat around wet produce. If you must walk a long distance from a community garden or allotment, plan the return trip before you cut. Bring insulated protection when appropriate, but do not place every crop directly against ice or freezing packs. Gentle cooling and shade are different from extreme cold. Basil especially needs separate treatment, and tomatoes may be handled according to ripeness and intended use. At this point, waking up early may sound like the entire solution. It is not. A crop picked at the perfect hour can still lose its advantage before you reach the kitchen. You can pick every one of these crops at the coolest moment of the morning and still waste that advantage through sunlight, pressure, trapped moisture, or careless cooling. The next step is the part that turns an early harvest into a better harvest. Bring the harvest back to the 5 words that will guide everything from this point forward. Cool, dry, shade, separate, and chill carefully. Cool means choosing a favorable time, not forcing every crop into one exact minute. It means paying attention to which plants have received sunlight and which remain protected. It means shortening the journey from plant to shelter when the morning is already warm. Dry does not mean every leaf must be perfectly free of moisture before you touch it. It means you do not trap dripping foliage or wet fruit in a closed, crowded container. If dew is heavy, keep the harvest loose and ventilated. If rain has just passed, consider waiting for the surface to dry when the crop can safely remain on the plant. If something must be picked immediately, treat it as wet produce and manage airflow. Shade means shade now, not after the entire garden is finished. A tree, porch, shed, umbrella, covered cart, or shaded doorway can protect a basket. The best place depends on your garden, but it should be cooler than direct sun and close enough that using it does not feel inconvenient. Separate means recognizing that lettuce and cantaloupe are not compatible basket partners. Neither are strawberries and zucchini. Tender leaves need room. Berries need a shallow layer. Herbs need protection from crushing. Heavy fruit needs a sturdy container. Damaged produce should be kept apart so you can use or discard it promptly without losing track of it. Chill carefully means cooling according to the crop. Leafy greens often benefit from prompt cooling after excess surface moisture is managed. Basil requires more caution around low temperatures. Tomatoes may be handled differently according to their stage of ripeness and how soon you will use them. The correct lesson is not to make everything as cold as possible. The lesson is to stop uncontrolled field heat while respecting the needs of each food. Now return to the two baskets from the beginning. Imagine that both were harvested early. The first basket was divided into shallow containers, placed in shade, and brought indoors in small rounds. Wet leaves were kept loose. Basil was separated. Heavy fruit never touched berries. The second basket was filled in one long trip. It sat where the rising sun reached it. Lettuce was at the bottom, zucchini was on top, and damp spinach was closed inside a bag. The harvest time on the clock looked excellent, but the handling removed the benefit. This is the mid-morning mistake that catches experienced gardeners as easily as beginners. We focus on the cut and forget the waiting. We admire the full basket and forget that every crop inside is still living tissue responding to heat, pressure, water, and air. From this point on, every crop will show us how those 5 words change in practice. The next one is so delicate that the depth of your basket can matter almost as much as the hour you pick it. Start the final group with the fruit that should never be buried beneath the rest of your harvest. Strawberries deserve the shallowest container you brought. A ripe berry may be able to hang from the plant, but once it is picked, the weight of other fruit can flatten its surface, bruise the flesh, and create wet, damaged spots. Harvest when the berries are dry enough to handle whenever possible. If morning dew is still heavy, you may choose to wait briefly while the plants remain shaded, especially if the fruit is not in immediate danger from heat, pests, or rain. If you must pick damp berries, keep them in a single loose layer and allow airflow. Do not close them in a warm container. Choose berries that have reached the color and maturity expected from the variety. Strawberries do not become better simply because they were harvested early in the day. A pale, immature berry does not gain full garden ripeness from sitting in shade. On the other hand, an overripe berry may be too soft to travel well. Learn the appearance and feel of fruit that suits the way you plan to use it. Hold the stem or cap rather than squeezing the berry. A gentle pinch or cut above the cap can leave the fruit intact. Lower each berry into the container. Do not toss it from above, even when the drop seems small. As you work, remove damaged, leaking, moldy, or insect-eaten fruit from the good harvest. Do not hide one very soft berry in the center of the container. Use it immediately if it is safe and suitable, or discard it. Separating it protects the rest and makes kitchen sorting easier. Keep the container out of direct sunlight. Berries can warm quickly, and a clear container in the sun can become especially hot. Bring small batches indoors rather than carrying one deep, impressive pile. Many gardeners prefer not to wash strawberries until they are close to using them because lingering surface moisture can encourage faster decline. Your kitchen method may vary, but the principle remains. Do not combine bruising, warmth, and trapped moisture. Those 3 conditions work together against the fruit. Tomatoes look stronger, but they require more judgment. The best harvest stage depends on the variety, weather, pest pressure, cracking risk, and what you plan to do with the fruit. Some gardeners allow tomatoes to ripen fully on the vine. Others pick when color has begun and finish ripening indoors. There is no single stage that fits every garden. Morning gives you a comfortable inspection window. Look at the fruit in good light. Check the color around the shoulders and bottom. Feel for the firmness expected at that stage. Look for cracks, insect damage, sun scald, blossom end problems, or soft areas. A tomato with damage should be separated and used promptly when appropriate. Use the stem joint or clean scissors rather than pulling hard against a loaded branch. Support large fruit with one hand. Tomato vines can split when a gardener twists a heavy fruit without controlling the stem. Place the tomato gently into a sturdy, shallow container. Do not stack tomatoes deeply. The weight can bruise ripe fruit at the bottom even when the skin does not break. Keep very ripe tomatoes apart from firmer ones. Never put them on top of strawberries, and do not use them to hold down a pile of charred leaves. The question of cooling tomatoes often becomes oversimplified. Temperature affects flavor, texture, and storage differently depending on ripeness and household conditions. Avoid turning the advice into an absolute command for every tomato. The practical morning rule is simpler. Do not leave harvested tomatoes heating in direct August sun. Move them to shade, sort by ripeness and condition, and handle them according to when you plan to eat or process them. A tomato that is already warm from the garden does not need to remain in a hot vehicle while you stop somewhere else. If you harvest at a community garden, plan to take it home promptly. Use ventilation and protection from crushing. Extreme temperature swings are not the goal. Controlled handling is. If rain has caused cracking, early inspection can help you find vulnerable fruit before it worsens. If animals or insects are taking ripe tomatoes, you may choose a slightly earlier color stage. These decisions are about real garden conditions, not a perfect theoretical schedule. Peppers are often firmer than ripe tomatoes and berries, yet the branches holding them can be brittle. A gardener who grabs a pepper and pulls downward may snap a branch carrying several future fruits. Use scissors or pruners. Support the pepper and cut the stem cleanly. Wear gloves when handling hot varieties if there is any chance you will touch your face or eyes. Keep hot peppers separate when that helps your kitchen routine. A pepper can be harvested green or allowed to change color depending on the variety and your goal. That makes maturity more flexible than it is for strawberries. A green pepper may be fully usable, while additional time on the plant can bring different color and flavor. The right choice depends on what you want, plant health, and the remaining season. Inspect the skin for sun scald, insect holes, soft spots, and cracks. Separate damaged peppers. Their firm surface can hide a problem around the stem or on the side facing the ground. Place peppers in a container that protects them from being scratched by tools or okra stems. Do not pile them over delicate leaves. Keep them dry and shaded. A pepper harvested cool retains that advantage only when you stop it from heating after the cut. These three fruits show why the phrase harvest early needs context. Strawberries are ruled by delicacy and ripeness. Tomatoes are ruled by ripeness, condition, and intended use. Peppers offer flexibility in color stage, but require careful cutting and branch protection. They also show why sorting should begin outdoors. A shallow berry tray, a tomato container arranged by firmness, and a separate basket for peppers may look like extra work. In reality, they save time. Nothing must be rescued from the bottom of a mixed bucket when you reach the kitchen. Before moving to the final crop, check the shaded area. Are the leafy greens still loose? Is basil separate from the crops you intend to cool aggressively? Are the cucumbers and zucchini resting without crushing beans or okra? Are the strawberries in one shallow layer? Is damaged produce clearly separated? Those questions take less time than reorganizing a damaged harvest later. The final crop is large, sturdy, and easy to carry. But no amount of cooling can correct the mistake of picking it before the plant says it is ready. For cantaloupe, the morning temperature can protect quality, but maturity must make the final decision. Cantaloupe is the crop that prevents this entire video from becoming a slogan. It may be wise to inspect and harvest a ready melon while the garden is cool, but it is not wise to remove an immature melon simply because sunrise has arrived. Begin with the variety you planted. Different cantaloupes and muskmelons can show readiness in slightly different ways. Read the seed packet or plant information when it is available, and compare that guidance with what you observe on the vine. Look at the background color beneath the netting. Smell near the blossom end for the characteristic aroma of a mature fruit when that applies to your variety. Examine the place where the stem meets the melon. Some types develop a clear slipping stage, while others may not separate in exactly the same way. Do not force one sign onto every melon. The vine itself offers context. Notice whether the tendril and nearby leaf are changing, whether the fruit has developed its expected color, and whether the aroma and stem area agree with the rest of the evidence. One sign alone can mislead you. Several consistent signs give you a better decision. If the melon is ready, support it with both hands. Do not let it roll from a raised bed or fall from a trellis. Cut or lift it according to the natural harvest behavior of the variety. A melon can look tough and still bruise internally from a hard drop. Place cantaloupe in its own sturdy container. Never set it on top of lettuce, chard, basil, beans, or strawberries. Keep it shaded while you finish. Separate any fruit that is cracked, leaking, badly damaged, or showing signs of decay. If the melon is not ready, leave it on the plant even if the day will be hot. Provide the normal plant care your garden requires, and inspect it again later. Shade after harvest cannot create maturity that the vine had not completed. Cooling cannot manufacture aroma or texture. This is the central balance of the morning. Favorable harvest conditions protect quality that already exists. They do not create quality that the plant has not yet developed. The clock tells you whether the harvest conditions are favorable. The plant tells you whether the crop is ready. Now that all 15 crops have been considered, we can turn the entire garden into one routine that works even when you do not have time to harvest before sunrise. The routine begins the night before. Clean and dry the cutting tools. Set out at least 2 baskets and add a shallow tray if you grow berries. Decide where the shaded holding area will be. If the garden is away from home, prepare the containers you need for the trip and keep them out of a hot vehicle until you are ready to leave. In the morning, walk through the garden once without harvesting. Notice where sunlight will arrive first. Check whether the leaves are dripping wet, lightly dewy, or already dry. Look for obvious damage, ripe fruit, and anything that must be used immediately. That first quiet inspection prevents rushed decisions later. Begin with lettuce and spinach, then move through kale and Swiss chard. Keep the leaves loose and protect the stems. Move the basket into shade as soon as it begins to fill. Next, harvest cilantro and parsley. Cut mature outer stems and keep the herbs airy. Harvest basil only when the leaves are reasonably dry. Make clean cuts above appropriate leaf pairs and keep it separate from crops that will receive colder handling. Then inspect cucumbers and zucchini from every angle. Choose the maturity that fits the variety and your kitchen. Cut rather than pull. Continue to green beans and okra, supporting the plants and selecting tender pods instead of chasing the largest possible size. Place strawberries in a shallow tray before collecting heavier fruit. Sort soft or damaged berries immediately. Inspect tomatoes by color, firmness, and condition, then arrange them without deep stacking. Cut peppers from the branches and keep them dry and protected. Finish by examining cantaloupe. Harvest only when several signs of maturity agree. Carry the melons separately. Every time a container fills, move it into shade. Do not wait for the entire garden. Keep scissors and knives away from the food. Do not place produce on hot pavement, metal, or the floor of a sun-warmed vehicle. Bring the harvest indoors in rounds when possible. Once inside, sort again. Give damaged food immediate attention. Manage excess moisture on leafy greens. Protect basil from inappropriate cold. Keep berries uncrushed. Organize tomatoes by ripeness and handle cantaloupe separately from tender crops. If you cannot work early, use the same routine in a smaller window. Start with plants about to receive sun, harvest delicate crops first, carry fewer items per trip, and create temporary shade. The goal is not to wake before everyone else. It is to reduce the time harvested food spends hot, wet, compressed, or exposed. Now return one final time to the 2 baskets from the beginning. The first basket stayed attractive not because it came from a better garden. It was harvested at suitable maturity while the crops were still cool. The leaves were not compressed. Wet produce was allowed airflow. The basket moved immediately into shade. Basil was treated separately. Strawberries remained in a shallow layer. Tomatoes and peppers did not crush anything. The cantaloupe was ready before it was picked. The second basket lost quality because several small errors were allowed to combine. The harvest started later. The container sat in sun. Heavy fruit pressed into tender leaves. Moisture was trapped. Everything received the same treatment, even though the crops had different needs. The good news is that improving this routine does not require expensive equipment or a perfect climate. It requires practical choices made in the right order. Cool. Harvest during the coolest useful window and protect crops from direct sun. Dry. Manage dew, rain, and washing so excess moisture is not trapped. Shade. Give every full basket shelter immediately. Separate. Keep tender leaves, herbs, berries, pods, and heavy fruit in containers that protect them from one another. Chill carefully. Remove uncontrolled field heat, but respect the different temperature needs of each crop. The best harvest is not simply the one you pick earliest. It is the one you pick at the right maturity, while it is still cool, and then protect during every minute that follows. Tomorrow morning, choose just one change. Put a shallow berry tray beside your basket. Create a shaded holding place. Carry the lettuce indoors before you begin picking zucchini. Separate basil from spinach. One change will make the routine easier to repeat, and a repeatable routine is more useful than a perfect morning that happens only once. Tell me which crop loses freshness fastest in your garden. Save this guide for your next August harvest and subscribe for more practical ways to protect homegrown food from the garden to the kitchen.